Today, our focus is on serve return. When the server uses a fast wrist and finger snap, the ball will usually have heavy spin. Now, if they use their wrist and fingers but the motion is slow, it's still a backspin serve. Alternatively, if they just chop downwards without much wrist action, that also creates spin. We can think of this as a lower level of spin. The heaviest spin comes from using the wrist and fingers, and then accelerating through contact. This makes the ball both fast and very spinny. The lightest spin is slow and has no wrist action, but it's still a backspin serve. Against that, you can either attack it or push it. This is the framework I use to judge the amount of spin on a serve. When I push, my paddle angle is relatively vertical. I believe that as long as your paddle is slightly vertical when pushing, the ball won't go into the net. Hitting the net is not strongly related to having a vertical paddle angle. So why does your push go into the net? It's because you didn't step in with your feet, so you're contacting the ball at the very end of your stroke, failing to brush it properly. As long as you get good friction on the ball, it will clear the net. You should make contact here, but instead, you contact the ball at the end of your stroke. This means you're just tapping the ball at the end of your motion, which will always result in hitting the net. You're brushing, but the effective part of your stroke misses the ball. Contacting it at the very end will cause it to go down. This is a footwork problem. You didn't move your feet, which is why your push wasn't solid. In my opinion, for most serves, a slightly vertical paddle angle will prevent you from hitting the net. Even against a very heavy spin ball like this, it won't go into the net. So, I recommend that when you push, you keep your paddle angle more vertical rather than flat. Most of the time, push returns result in a high ball, so don't make your paddle too flat. If you feel the serve has very heavy backspin, then you can open your paddle angle a bit more. You must learn to adjust your paddle angle based on the specific characteristics of your opponent's serve. Second, for a heavy spin serve, should we contact the ball earlier or later? The answer is at the start of its descent. For a backspin serve, the earlier you contact the ball, the more you will be affected by the spin. The later you contact it, the less the spin will affect you. For topspin serves, the opposite is true. For a sidespin topspin serve, contact it early. If I wait, the ball will jump and I'll pop it up. On the same serve, if I take it a little earlier, I can control the ball. This is a sidespin serve, as pure topspin is harder for amateurs to execute. Now, what about sidespin backspin? The earlier I contact this ball, the more likely I am to misread the spin. So if this serve is tricky, I will wait for it to drop slightly. By waiting a little, you reduce your unforced errors. So, in your short game, if the serve is sidespin topspin and you can't attack it, take the ball earlier. If it's sidespin backspin, wait a little longer. Third point, when you're receiving serve, at the moment of contact, should you use force or be relaxed? My feeling is that the initial contact is not a hit, but a block. First, I absorb the ball's power and spin, and then I follow through. Try to feel this, first block, then execute the rest of the stroke. It's not a simple tap. Tapping means you make contact with no follow-through. Against spin, you'll hit the net. Against no spin, the ball will go high. I think this method is very suitable for amateur players. So on your serve return, at the first point of contact, your hand shouldn't be too stiff trying to force the ball away. It's not about hitting the ball out as fast as possible. This applies to sidespin topspin serves as well. When the ball comes, you're not trying to punch it away. My feeling is also to first block the ball's energy. After blocking, I execute my stroke. Watch again, block, then follow through. I believe this makes serve returns much more stable. At the moment of contact, your grip on the paddle should not be too tight or rigid. Start with a soft feeling, and then add the follow-through. Whether it's adding friction, chopping down, flicking, looping, or hitting. So when you play, try to make your first contact on the return, whether pushing or looping, a bit softer. Don't be too rigid, don't try to use too much power immediately. First, soften the contact, and then, boom, generate quality on your follow-through. All high-level players have this soft touch on their return, they absorb and then accelerate. They don't just hit it hard from the start. So, your first feeling, even when looping a backspin serve, shouldn't be to just muscle the ball over, as that will cause errors. Instead, absorb, then go. See how I absorb the spin first. This is why I love returning these sidespin backspin serves. My feeling is to first cushion the ball, and then add quality in the second part of the stroke. Now let's talk about why you might miss the ball completely on sidespin serves. I often see players miss my hook serve. The reason is the ball's trajectory after the second bounce. Watch the first bounce. This is a tricky serve to return. However, your point of contact is definitely not where the ball first bounces. You see how it curved away from me? I was aiming for its first bounce location. This is what skilled players do. The kick after the second bounce is deceptive and sharp. There are only two ways to handle this. First, you can take the ball early, before it has a chance to curve away. So, I either contact the ball right as it's bouncing up, or I wait for it to finish its curve and then hit it. Those are your two options. If you try to hit the ball at the peak of its curve, you will most likely miss it. So you either have to contact the ball right after the bounce and control it, or wait for it to finish curving and then loop it. Those are your only two choices. If you try to hit the ball when it's moving sideways the most, even if you make contact, it will be on the edge of your paddle, and you'll have no quality. Typically, against topspin, we attack the ball early. Have you ever faced a fast, hooking serve? The earlier I contact it, the better I can control it. For example, against a fast ball like this, the earlier I make contact, the more power I can generate. What is our natural instinct? We see a fast ball and we pull our arm back. By the time we swing, it's too late. The ball jumps off the table very quickly. This serve is very effective in matches because most players get intimidated by the speed. They pull their arm back, hesitate, and then get jammed by the ball. So when your opponent serves a fast sidespin topspin, or a tricky left-sided spin, contact the ball early. Before it can curve significantly after bouncing, you've already controlled it. Now, what if the serve is sidespin backspin? If you try to take a backspin serve too early, on the rise, you might not get enough friction, which requires a lot of skill. Instead, you can wait for the ball, let it drop, and then loop. No matter which way it curves, wait for it, and then loop. Wait for the curve to finish. Often, players are not beaten by the spin itself, but by the rhythm and timing. So, to summarize, against topspin, try to take the ball early at its rising point. Against backspin, wait for it to pass its peak and start falling, when it's less erratic, and then make your shot. This will improve your consistency. For a simple backspin serve, without much sidespin like beginners use, you can return it from right here. See, that feels easy to loop. But one day, your opponent gets better, and now their serve has heavy sidespin. suddenly you can't touch the ball. Right? You start returning like this. Why does this happen? It's because, as I said before, your mindset for returning is flawed. You are still using your beginner's method, standing still and waiting for the ball, not actively seeking it. When the ball has strong side spin, you must learn to find the ball and hit it. Finding the ball involves controlling the rhythm, as I mentioned. It also involves controlling your center of gravity. Look, if I stand here and you serve a simple backspin, I can loop it directly. But against a side spin serve, if I stand in the same spot, I'll miss the ball completely. With a hook serve, I'll hit my own hand. You have to start adjusting your center of gravity, right? Against any serve that curves sideways, even if I don't move my feet, I have to shift my body's center of gravity to meet the ball. You have to use your body weight to loop the ball. It's the same for a hook serve, I must use my body weight. If I don't, I'll miss. The wider the angle, the more I have to move my feet. For instance, serve me a short, wide angle. When you miss these short angle shots, it's not the spin, it's your footwork. You have to move your feet to the ball. So after the serve is hit, you need to learn to use your center of gravity to play the shot, for both left and right side spins. For a right side spin, your center of gravity has to shift to the other side because the ball will drift that way. So, when we receive serve, even for a push, this principle applies. If I just reach with my arm to push, it will likely go high or out. But if you engage your center of gravity as you push, your return will be much better. Same for a right side spin. If you just reach, even getting it back is useless. You must press your center of gravity into your right side. Let me explain why we make errors. Serve me a left side spin. It's because your body is here, but your hand is over there. How can you loop from that position? Your body must support your hand. Look, wherever your body is, your hand should be there too. When you do this, your stroke becomes very smooth. Now, for a short ball. Why do we miss short serves? Because you didn't get enough friction, you only hit the ball at the end of your stroke. It's like you missed the main part of the ball and just nicked it at the end. A player once told me, my match performance is terrible, but my training is fine. That's because in training, you're practicing against fixed placements. In a match, the placement is unpredictable. Your opponent will increase the difficulty. This is a footwork and center of gravity issue. You need to coordinate everything. For example, on a short ball, I must step in. Right? Look, when the ball comes long, I loop, and my body weight follows through. For players at the same level, if you can master your body and footwork, and improve your anticipation, you will separate yourself from your peers by a large margin. You must learn to use your body to support your serve return and find the correct contact point. Isn't serve return the most difficult skill in table tennis? It is. So, why do matches between two unfamiliar players often look unexciting? Because they struggle with the serve return and can't get rallies going. But when two players who know each other play, you see much better rallies. Right, because I know what kind of serve you have, I know how to return it, and that's how we start a rally. Against an unfamiliar player, their serve is an unknown. I have to guess and anticipate, which makes the match look messy. Watch, this is the stroke I use to return a sidespin backspin serve. Then, when I lower my center of gravity, the motion is exactly the same. For every ball I identify as sidespin backspin, I always start with this motion. Why? My first priority is to get the ball over the net. Even if it goes a bit high, I first establish the confidence that I can return the serve. If I haven't even read the spin properly, and I try to hit it hard right away, I'll miss. Then I try to add more spin. Then you start to panic. One ball in the net, one ball long, and your confidence is gone. So, what is my principle for returning serve? First, get the ball over the net with enough spin. Don't use power, just avoid going long. Then, I observe my first few returns. For example, if I have to brush very hard just to get the ball this high, it means the serve has extreme spin. If I brush hard and the ball goes higher than expected, I know the spin isn't heavy, so I can hit more forward. If the first bounce of my loop lands here, I know I can add 30 to 40% more power. If the first bounce of my loop lands near the baseline, it means I can only use 50% power on this return. For example, on a side spin topspin serve. For my first attempt, I'll use 30% power. Okay. Now, I'll try 50% power. That feels okay. 60% power. Still good. 70% power, boom. That's the limit, it's close to the end line. I need to leave some margin for error with my hand. I will always prioritize getting the ball over the net and on the table first. Then, I'll think about adding quality and spin. 80% of the essence of table tennis lies within the first 3 shots, the serve and return. I believe if amateur players understand this concept, they will definitely improve.
那个我们应该等我吧，球友们。这个我现在不好意思说啊，这个我会努力的，就喜欢听我唠嗑。我会努力开那个大一点的10多张球台的地方，欢迎每一个球友。如果我开了，我们就先举办一个比赛，欢迎全国各地的球友来这儿比赛，
对，
好不好？这个今年年底之前一定实现这个愿望，好不好
？Join our membership to unlock daily exclusive shorts and discover the coach's secret tips and tricks on table tennis technique. You'll also get our weekly on-court coaching series. Silver members get even more and also unlock the exclusive weekly Coach's Corner series. Thank you for supporting the channel's growth.